Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC here in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. And, of course, before I get to all that, the usual rants. Because what choice do I got? I'm me. So, looks like our country just keeps continuing to get worse. We're seeing the individuals whose policies are failing in lifetime, refusing to admit they are wrong, and therefore dragging all of us, literally all of us, down with them. And now we have individuals who are openly trying to encourage our president to abolish the Supreme Court. And for those of us who are disabled, a good majority of our lives are already restricted in ways I wouldn't really be able to put in words and explain to someone unless they have been there themselves. But a good majority of us do not have the option to just grab and go. Because to be quite honest, had that been an option, I would have been already out. I'm sorry. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have anxiety disorder. It was already hard enough out here as it was. Okay? This is just getting more terrifying by the second. But for individuals who are doing this whole thing, well, why don't you just go then? Especially you Republicans. You really want us to go? There's an option for you. You could cover the cost. Because those individuals like me, a good majority of our money is tied up in medical bills, in the small amount of transportation we actually manage to get semi-regular access to. It is tied to groceries and the very few small perks, such as things like, heat, air conditioning, and electricity. In other words, that means we are not like you. We can't just pack up and go. Quite a few of us don't even have vehicles. What are we going to even do with all of that? Teleport? Yeah. Which really sucks for people like me, whose fight or flight is at its height. At its height. Okay? And to be quite honest, it's me we're talking about. Even if I had the opportunity to go, I would, yes. But I would still fight. That's what I'm doing here. Every single day. Bringing up topics that the mainstream media won't, that a lot of YouTubers won't, not because they don't care, but because they don't even know what the issues are. I'm well aware of the fact that will probably get me in trouble. It certainly would not be the first time. And I really don't care. I am all out of you-know-what to give at this point. I am 40 years old. Perhaps it's the nihilist in me. The hopeful nihilist, that is. that if things are going to keep trending this way, I'm at the very least going to give it a hell of a fight. And I think that's got to start being the mentality all of us have. We need to stop this pie in the sky nonsense. We cannot wait 4 years. The damage that has already been done would take decades, if even that, to fix. And that's just for your mainstream abled folks. It won't even start with fixing the things that have been broken within the service system. So, what people need to not be doing right now, regardless of whether you agree with each other on politics or not, is to try to be the very least antagonistic towards one another as humanly possible. People are strung the hell out. We have spent the last decade living through historical moment after historical moment, and I'm not talking about the fun ones that can make you punch your fist in the air going rah rah America. I'm talking about devastation. Okay? We're tired. There's not a whole lot left of energy. Let's try to be a little kinder to one another. Agree to disagree. Don't go out looking for a fight like you're just turned 21 and you're drunk and it's your 21st birthday and somebody started something. Yeah, let's not do that. All right? Tired of the arguing, the backbiting, the backstabbing. I've been involved with politics a long time. Long time, since 2006. This constant, literally bar fight behavior is not going to get anybody going anywhere. It just looks like an insane, massive train wreck in slow-mo. Okay? Alright. I'm going to stop griping for a moment and let's get to the disclaimers. Folks, if you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the link in there by Autistic Hoya. It's the Massive Living Archive on all things JRC. We also have the article written in there by Neuroclastic where they surveyed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to JRC's so-called behavioral modification program. The very same one that the JRC threatened a defamation lawsuit over if they didn't remove it from their website. Obviously, Neuroclastic refused, so please go ahead and read that article. Share on all your social media. Also included is Neuroclastic's GoFundMe link, because unlike the JRC, we do not have access to unlimited streams of money. Trigger warnings: when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you do got young children present, please make sure to utilize the headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision is advised. New trigger warning. I don't have political affiliations. I have networks. I have allies who are politicians. I do not align with any party. Because quite frankly, I have never really felt well represented by anybody that's in House or Senate. Closest I can get is Bernie. Point blank. All right. My political views are more than likely going to piss off both sides. Because, yeah, it's not evil versus good. It's chaotic evil versus lawful evil. Anybody who tells you anything different is selling you something. If those type of views offend you, this is probably not going to be the channel for you to watch. But I do heartily still encourage you to go to the description box anyways, so you can see all the information in regards to places like JRC and JRC themselves, because getting those places closed are far more important. Protecting those kids are far more important than my nihilistic views on politics. And I certainly won't be offended if you don't want me to pontificate on how all is lost, all right? Okay. Now, I may reread something. If I do, I apologize, but in my defense, I have slept since then. Okay. So, additionally, the parents have a fundamental liberty interest to represent and choose ESD treatment for their dependent children. That is incorrect. Remember when I told you, JRC, that your students, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, also have rights. They have the right to humane health care and humane mental health care. They have right to a defense if the decisions being made by their guardians and parents can be shown to have extreme risk towards their overall well-being through means of either physical or mental health. In fact, if it has been determined, like with what the FDA has done here, that the so-called treatment that the parents are pursuing is actually detrimental to the child, and whether the JRC wants to call it this or not, is actually abusive towards the child, leaving them utterly powerless and voiceless, and the people that have all the power are the parents and the people making money off of their pain and suffering. In such instances, the federal government and the state government may intervene on the behalf of those children, in particular when it has to do with a medical device that is literally pumping kids with electricity designed to be painful just below the lethal limit. A parent rights end when they infringe on their child's right to sane health care and mental health care. Let me say that again for the morons in the back, because God, I get tired of repeating myself. When the parental rights to choose medical treatment for their children is a type of medical treatment that puts their children at severe risk of harm. And with the GED device, if after all this evidence and all these videos, you don't see that that device is the epitome of extreme risk of harm, then I don't know what to tell you. Then in those cases, those children have rights too. And the federal governments and state governments can step in on the behalf of the child to protect them from abuse by means of the device. Or let's be honest here, you've all seen the Christian Science trials in those kind of cases as well. Parental rights to decide their children's medical treatment does not supersede the child's right to sane and humane mental health and medical health care. So if the parent decides upon a particular treatment that has an extreme and unreasonable risk of harm to the child, the parent's rights stop when they begin to infringe upon the child's right to sane health care. Okay? Which means your consent decrees mean jack and shit in a sane world. But very obviously, we don't live in a sane world. However, because of those Christian Science trials, there is precedent for exactly that, for the state or federal government or a federal department to step in when so-called treatment is not treatment, but abuse. Okay? All right, let me continue to read the JRC's multiple lies, half-truths, and gaslighting nonsense. Indeed, the interest of the parents in the care, custody, and control of their children is perhaps the oldest fundamental liberty interest recognized by the Supreme Court. Did you all not hear the words coming out of my mouth, JRC? I know you're not as stupid as you pretend to be. If you were, nobody would ever let you get away with this nonsense. When parental rights to decide child's medical treatment violates that child's right to sane health care, the kind of health care that doesn't present an extreme risk of illness or injury, then the federal and state governments and departments have a right to step in to protect the child. Yes, even protect the child from their own parents. Okay, but why would they need that? Parents are... Why would they need that? If you ever ask that question, then you really aren't living in reality here. Okay? All right. We're going to read one more sentence here and then cut off. We'll get to the next video right after this. Okay. So they throw in Traxel versus Granville. Moreover, there is a presumption that fit parents act in the best interest of their children. Okay, JRC, who decides the fitness of the parents to make the decisions? Because if it's you, JRC, you have to forgive me if that doesn't just fill me with relief. You have to forgive me if I don't think that that makes things sound like things are safe. Okay? Like, are you all for real? I know I use my mom a lot, but we're going to use her again in this situation in particular. I mean, after all, if they're going to appeal to authority, I might as well go ahead and do the same thing, right? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. As you all know, my mom has worked in healthcare longer than I've been alive. Well over 40 years. Okay? She's extremely knowledgeable in a way that not every parent with a kid on the spectrum is going to be. Remember when I told you that I was that kid, that I had some extremely scary self-injurious behavior when I was a kid? Now, if somebody from a place like JRC came to my mom, all her years in healthcare, working in ERs, not just being a primary care physician in a nice medical office, in actual ERs where you have prison inmates cuffed to beds, you have folks who are drug addicts that are going crazy in one of the side rooms off of the ER. You have people coming off of the street, women who just barely survived horrible situations, right? If someone were to suggest to her to stop my very scary and potentially fatal self-injurious behaviors when I was a kid by sticking me on the GED device, that person would be very lucky to leave that room alive with a head still attached to their shoulders. If they tried to force me into that place, y'all wouldn't know about JRC existing, because she would have already pulled it apart brick by brick. You want to know why? Because she's worked in ERs. She's had situations where kids are being brought into the ER nearly beaten to a pulp by their own family members. Women who come in being battered by boyfriends. Some of the worst types of injuries you can ever see or hear about. Okay? It gives you a unique perspective on things, you could say. She would never, ever, under any circumstances, allow that to happen to me, no matter how bad I could have gotten. Okay? She did what most sane parents should do. When the teachers began bringing it up, when she began to notice things, and when she began to see just how see-through my little white lies were, trying to hide bruises from what was happening with my stepbrother and all of that. When she saw some of the nail marks that could only have been done by my nails on the upper parts of my arms that I covered with t-shirts, she, through the teacher's suggestion, got me diagnosed at Burl, with my aunt also there to assist in the process later on. Now, Burl back then was more Cox. They actually evolved a little later on. It was just a small clinic at the time, and they incorrectly diagnosed me when she first brought me in because of those reasons. But weirdly, at the time, the Ritalin at least temporarily worked to keep me calmer, and it did help at least bring those self-injurious tendencies down a little bit. But yeah, had anything else been suggested like what the JRC does, it wouldn't have ended well. It would not have ended well at all. I mention this because the JRC keeps trying to put these parents on a pedestal and saying they have the right and they know their children best. It's pie in the sky bullshit. Reality is, I will say that parents know their kids a lot better than I ever thought my mom ever did know me which I didn't find out until I was like mid-20s. But she didn't know anything. Well, everything. Excuse me. Did not know everything that was going on at the time with me. Okay? Parents can only know so much because they have to work 8 hours a day to put food on the table, pay rent, buy a home. None of these things are cheap. During that time period, there's at least 2 hours between getting out of school and having the parents come home. Do you see where I'm getting here? Yeah. Parents don't notice everything. That is not me criticizing them. It's just a fact. We're only human. They're only human. And there's going to be things that they are going to miss. So stop with this nonsense, but they know what's best and they know what's going on with their children, because that is not necessarily always the case. Don't believe me? Go talk to parents of teenagers, because they got a lot to tell you. All right? And again, do they have the right to determine the best type of treatment, medical care, and mental health care for their children? Yes. Except, there's always an except, because we live in reality, not fan fiction. And there are situations with parents, good intentioned, good, loving people, who get taken in by these charlatans and evil human beings and become true believers that this is the only thing that will help their kids. And it blinds them to what is actually being done to their kids. The place is presenting them an image of their child that they wanted to see. And as long as they're going to see that image, they're going to believe whatever the people that are providing that reflection of what they want their child to be, they're going to believe whatever it is that they say. Because otherwise it would shatter the illusion. And you would have to come to the grips that you've not only been had, but because you've been had, your child has had horrific abuse perpetuated on them by the same people who sold you the illusion in the first place. Not a lot of folks know how to handle that level of guilt. All right? Just say. So yes, JRC, parents do have rights, but the part you always forget is kids have rights too. And if a parent exercising their rights to decide medical care for their children is going to cause that child potential irreparable harm, then the child's rights have to supersede the parental rights for the child's own safety. There are multiple legal precedents for this very exact idea here, okay? Children need legal protections, and they have them, specifically because of these types of reasons. If you don't believe me, go read some of those state versus Christian Science parents lawsuits I've told you about previously. we're going to go ahead and close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please, folks, don't forget to get the comments. I do appreciate your time, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I'll see you all again here in a few minutes. Bye-bye, everyone.